A guy by the name of Daniel used to reside in a little community in Montana that was tucked away in the folds of the state's undulating hills. In the middle of the craziness that was his everyday existence, he yearned for the peace and calm that only seclusion could provide. He daydreamed for a long time of running away to the outdoors, namely to the pristine splendor of Yellowstone National Park. He had always dreamed of going on a trip by himself, and one summer he made the decision to finally make that dream come true. Daniel embarked on his adventure with a dependable vintage automobile and a rucksack stuffed with the things he would need along the way. The path that led to Yellowstone was a meandering ribbon of asphalt that was encircled by thick trees that gave off the impression that they were telling stories of daring exploits. As he proceeded farther into the wild, he began to experience an increasing sensation of calm as well as anticipation. He finally arrived at the national park's gate after many hours of traveling there. He handed over the appropriate amount, obtained a map, and then proceeded to enter the park. When he glanced around at all of the possible hiking paths, waterfalls, and geysers he might discover, his excitement level skyrocketed. On the first day of his trip, Daniel made the decision to go on a trek to a secluded lake that he had heard about. The lake was famous for its pristine waters and peaceful beauty. The trek was difficult, but the unspoiled nature and the fresh aroma of pine trees in the air energized him throughout the journey. In the end, he was successful in finding the hidden treasure, which turned out to be much more stunning than he had anticipated. The sun was positioned low in the sky, giving the water of the lake a warm golden hue. Daniel took off his shirt and pants, then stepped into the water without hesitating or showing any reluctance. Even though it was bone-chillingly cold, the exhilaration of being by himself in such a distant wonderland made him feel invincible. As he continued his swim into the middle of the lake, the depth of the water increased and the temperature became more brisk. The isolation was seductive, and for a fleeting time, he had the sensation of ruling over his very own kingdom in the forest. However, after that, a shift occurred. Daniel could feel the water's hold on him gradually becoming more stranglehold-like as he moved farther away from the coast. The realization that he was unable to escape the icy grasp of the lake brought him a feeling of panic. It was difficult for him to keep his head above water since he was exhausted from the swim and bewildered by the depth. His limbs began to feel heavy, and he began to take shallow breaths. As he struggled to escape the crushing depths, desperation began to race through him. He reflected on all of the goals and aspirations he had for his future, as well as all of the exciting experiences he had yet to have. However, suddenly he was confronted with the stark truth of his own impending death. In the last moments of his life, as the sun sank below the horizon and threw a shadow over the water, Daniel saw a montage of his whole life play out before his eyes. He was amused by the irony that he had sought isolation only to find himself all by himself in the most inaccessible and inhospitable of locations. Yellowstone National Park, a haven of natural splendor, became a mute witness to the catastrophe that was unfolding under its placid surface, and it did so as a result of the park's name. And just as the last glimmer of light disappeared from the sky, so did Daniel, leaving behind just ripples in the water, and the haunting recollection of a man who had sought solitude, but discovered something much more deep in the heart of nature. A lesson about the delicate balance that exists between man and the wild world.